everybody. Welcome to our webinar. My name is Sergey. Today's webinar topic is how we can use ZAPTEST to test web services, SOAP and REST APIs. Before I start, as usual, I will ask each participant to mute audio line and remain muted throughout the session. If you have any questions, please submit them directly to me using WebEx private chat. Our webinar will consist of 3 parts. At the beginning, I will make a brief introduction about ZAPTEST as the product and company. I will have the main part of the webinar to cover the topic. And at the end, I will allocate some time for a Q&A session. At the beginning, a few words about who we are. In the business over 20 years, we position ourselves as a full-stack cross-platform testing solution. With ZAPTEST, you can automate applications on mobile, Windows, Mac, Linux platforms, and we fully support agile development methodology. We are based in Atlanta, Georgia. Our core technology is OneScript, which allows us to script test procedures once and execute it anywhere. We are the test optimization leaders, which means that with ZAPTEST you can automate any application, you can meet any development schedule, and you can accommodate any skill set of your team members. As a full-stack technology, we provide end-user test automation in a cross-platform fashion. This means that you can create your test script in one platform or environment and play it as is anywhere else. Besides that, we offer other technologies which are not commonly offered in the industry. For example, with ZAPTEST, you can auto-generate documentation. This may offset a lot of man-hours of writing documentation manually. ZAPTEST can do it for you. We also have technology for parallel device execution. The MRun ensures just-in-time regression testing. With MRun, you can connect to multiple devices with different platforms or different browsers and execute same test simultaneously on all of them. We also have device host management private cloud system, which we provide to ZAPTEST users. The farm offers test device management capability and provides universal access to the devices across organization. It can be used for the purpose of mobile application deployment, manual testing, automated testing, and of course parallel test execution. With ZAPTEST today, we can do API or web services testing. You can use the tool for an API standalone test automation or for building combined API and UI testing framework. Recently, we released the load component, which enables our users to do API performance testing as a continuation of their quality assurance process. As you can see, today ZAPTEST can be used as a one-stop solution for majority of quality assurance needs. All right, the next part of the webinar is a technical presentation. I will cover subjects announced in the topic. I will create tests to showcase how we can make requests for SOAP API, REST API, how we can run, debug them, and also how we can make test script to perform both API and UI testing steps. Work with API. We start by using the API Explorer. This is collection of API-related objects, opposite to the Repository Explorer, which is collection of UI-related objects. In the API Explorer, we start by defining a server object. For this, I need to press this button, specify the server name, also we need to specify URL for the server. We'll be using demo API URL, which ZAPTEST provides for demonstration and training purpose. Here I need to type it. With this address, we provide the WSDL file, so I can select the load WSDL data checkbox. Once it's OK, ZAPTEST will connect and read information from the WSDL file. As a result, it populates a list of methods. There are different purposes of different API methods. I will select Get Products. Once I select one of the API methods from the list of methods that come from WSDL file, ZAPTEST will navigate me to the API Studio. I can use API Studio to further customize the request related to this method. I can use request body parameters. I can view and update raw body data using this tab. I can provide get parameters, XML namespaces, headers, attachments if they're used. And the last step can be used for verification purposes. In the checklist, I can specify one or several values that can be expected as part of the server response. The method that I selected, getProducts, it returns a list of products that ZAPTEST offers to our customers. If it's a very simple request, it doesn't get any get parameters. I don't need to provide any specific headers. And also I can use checklist to validate one or several output elements. The first product which I expect with this request to return is the name of the main product, ZAPTEST. The second one is ZAPFarm. To verify the second one, I need to add additional line here with index. To add my service call to the test script, I just need to get the method, drag it to the scripting area, and once there I can use any of the applicable methods. There are main methods that will be used to perform execution step, execute and check response by list. I will select the second one, execute and check response by list, since I have items provided in the checklist step for verification. Going to test. And now I can run it. After the test run, I can open test results, review list of steps, their status. Right now it's only one step corresponding to the method that I was used, execute and check response by list. Also, it reports that a checklist does not contain any errors. That means that those two elements that I provide for verification that perfectly match what has been returned by the response. If I need to see what happens when I get unexpected result, I can, of course, modify any of these elements, or I can add additional element. Let's say I expected to get third element, which contains another product. When I run this test, check its result. The checklist step shows me that the element that I try, the third element that I try to validate, returns null instead of expected Z back. So this is how we can read outputted information with verification of provided checklist values. Sometimes we need to see what comes with the response, like entire response for the method call. In ZAPTEST, you can use this by using the special method. Get string response. Get string response returns value. I can assign it to the variable, or I can simply output it to the test results if I provide its argument as true. After this test execution, I open this result. I should see the response for my request. So this is the entire response which comes with this method call. As you can see, the array of two elements, ZAPTEST and ZAP-File, and I referred them to using the node getProductsResult checklist. If I need to separate those two products, I need to use different method. We call it getMemberResponse. For getMemberResponse, I need to provide path. For easiest way to find the path is to look the entire response and identify the node. I need to use this path with the array number. And I need to return it and save it to the variable. And for the second product, I basically need to use identical method with a different array element. This way I can verify the values during the test run. If I put the breakpoint, I will pause my execution on the next step. And I can use local step to explore values returned with this request. So my product 1 and product 2 shows me correct product names. As you can see, when I drop the method, I can see expanded list of operations that can be used. I can use any of those for more advanced programming techniques. So if I need to dynamically update or set new values, if I need to verify certain part of the response, I need to update headers or use value for the body of the request, we have all the methods that can be used for this purpose. All right. Next part of my presentation, I will cover the way how we work with REST services. The one that I just showed is the SOAP type of request. For the REST web services, we usually start by defining a server object. Let me add a new server. And I need to provide the URL for the server. Of course, this address does not have any WSDL, so I just need to press OK. I added just the server object. Any methods has to be defined manually. Information about available methods for the REST Web Services library can be offered in a different way. Some organizations provide some form of open API store. It can be any other type of documentation. In ZAPTEST, we use same URL that I provided for the server as the web page for the information. So if I copy this URL and use it in the browser, I get the documentation page with a list of methods and instruction how to use them. So here we have sections for book, project, user. I want to use book, and I would like to use post method for this, so I navigate to the post book. This method posts information about a new book. I need to provide name of the author, name of the title with the request, and if book is posted successfully, the output includes a message that should say you have added the following book that includes title and author. All right, to add this method, I need its URL. Okay, now I can add method to the server object. So I press this button, add new API method. Here I specify the name, and I need to update this URL later because it's just part of it. I need to take this. To the method URL for this particular method. If I look at my, I see that I need to provide two parameters, author and title. It should be done in the request body. The values can be typed here directly, or I can parameterize them. To parameterize, I need to press this button. So for the author, I will define parameter author. That will be ZAP-Expert. For the title, I want to use product names that I'm receiving from my first part of the script. And I want to make something like product 1 plus product 2, which will make ZAPTEST plus ZAP-Farm. For this purpose, I need to, once I have the products values, I want to save them to the data table. So we'll use ZAP namespace, data table extension, and the set value. This will be the name of the parameter, title. And as its value, I will So basically, I appended values of product 1 and product 2. Make sure that the value is set correctly in the data table. The breakpoint. Just up to the breakpoint, go to the data table, and here I can see the value. Okay, since I have both values that I need to use in my REST request argument, I can go back to my method, and here I can populate value of the title. Again, it should be parameterized. Select a new parameter for book title. Of course, I need to have this match, book title here and book title there, otherwise at runtime ZAPTEST will set a new parameter. All right, now I have parameters defined. I can execute this step. I'm not providing any checklist values, so I will be using just the execute. And I want to see what I get in the response. So this will be in return with getStringResponse method and assigned to my response variable. Each API call returns status, and we always expect status to be 200, which means that server takes our request, serves it, and outputted the response without any issues. Any other status will some problems. To see what status my request returns, I need to use getResponseStatusCode method, and as you see, I assign it to the status variable. Okay, let me run this test up to this point because I want to see what I get in the response and in the status. Local variables values show me what I get. Status comes as expected, 200, and the response itself contains the expected information. I have added book with this title, this author. I need to add verification points. I will use programming steps to verify response and status, and it's going to be 2 if state steps. First, I need to check that my status is correct. It's a string value. If status is not right, is not equal 200, then I can report the error. I will use custom report step. To add custom report step with the API calls, I just need to use server object. And with the server object, use custom report method. So at this point, I'm outputting error because status is not equal to 100. So I put the first argument as false. For the fail step, outputted to the test result. And here I can provide title of the step and details. For the details, I can just output the status itself. Okay, now when we get correct response with status equals 200, I also want to verify that the book that I submitted is correctly posted. And for this, I need to see if a response contains my title. This is one of the way that we can validate it. Okay, here I need another if statement, and I will use string function. So my response should have value that appears in a data table at runtime. So any output which is not equal 0 would be considered as condition. And once again, I can use server's custom report to output custom information. For the step status, I will provide true argument, which means that step will have passed status in the result. For step title and details, I can provide information, something like title found, and the response itself is the details. If my if statement enables to verify the book title, I need to output failed step. So I changed the first argument to false. Correspondingly, I need to change the title of the step, title not found in the response. Okay, let me run this test and the result. In my test result, line 12 shows the output that I made with custom reporting step. It tells me that the title was found. This is the title of the step. And for the details, response itself. Right now, I'm using JSON format. If I change it to the XML, it may look slightly different, but the validation will as well. For some reason, an error on my first step, I played with a number of parameters. Let me check. Okay, I delete the extra line. Yeah, that was the issue. Okay, now I have successful execution of this test with all the details provided in the test results. Next part of the webinar I will use to create combined test. The idea that often we need to use both API and UI steps to complete some form of a testing cycle, because you can have UI part to update information backend. To verify that information, you need to utilize API steps. Or vice versa, you can use API steps to obtain certain information from the system's backend that later can be used in UI steps. In my example, I will use the API call to get the information from our system, and then I will add UI steps to make a GUI test and use that information from the first part. Let me start GUI test. First, I will begin with the API part. Go to the API Explorer. Here we'll define new object. So I need to provide the URL. Select the checkbox for the WSDL data. That I want to use is get test accounts. This method returns of test accounts that can be used on the ZAPTEST website. I want to execute this method, so I add the step to execute it. Also, I want to see what I get in its response. So I use getStringResponse method for this. True will output it to the test results. In the test results for the step, I can see what comes with the response, and here a number of accounts. I see tester 1, tester 2, 3, and 4. In my test, I need to get one account at a time. My test will involve multiple iterations. So I need to find a way how can I get these members. First of all, I need to put step to member. For the path, you can look my test results. So this is the path, which comes as the array. Here the array elements that are specific test user accounts. So we'll include the path string and the array number. I will use this variable to store the returned user account. Let's test up to this point and see what I get for the test user account. Okay, this is the first test account that I have, tester 1. Index for the array element. Expect to get next one. All right. In my test, I need to pull different accounts based on test iteration. So I can replace this number with a number of iteration in my test. I can do this simply by providing to the iteration. One more time. Okay, it returns tester 2, which correspond with iteration number 1. This part will use API call to get the test user account. Now I can add UI related steps. For this, I'm going to scan our homepage. Let me open the browser. Scan GUI. On the homepage, keep just two objects, one for ZAPTEST, for the login link. Others. And also I need to add a scan of the login page. Okay, on this view, I will keep objects for username and password entry. Change names for the edit fields. Okay, and to verify successful login, there will be a user zone page and the welcome message. After login, add object for the welcome. Add UI related steps. First, I need to share my application under test. You can see that objects for the that I got after scanning web pages appear on the repository explorer. API Explorer has objects that I get during my API part of script development. To launch the application, I use application object with the launch command. Define parameter for the type of the browser. Second argument contains URL. It's not changing. I can leave it hard-coded. First, I will verify logo text, ZAPTEST, this exists method. Then I need to click the login link. Okay, on the next view, which represents login page, verify username. I type values for username and password. For the user ID, I need to type value which I got from the API request. This is the user account variable value. Password is the same for all accounts. It's test. And to submit the login page, I will include enter keyword as part of the password argument. Now I need to verify a welcome message which includes name of the user account. In order to verify it by text, I need to make sure that text property matches the user account. For this, I will do set property method, specify name of the property which is text. And here I need to provide new text for the welcome message. Which will consist of the welcome word and name of the test user account. Okay, once I set the new value of the text property, I can use exist method with the welcome object. So ZAPTEST will verify that object with this text exists and to the results. Let me save this test. I want to close all browsers that I have open. So I click the run button and I expect my test to open Firefox and perform the login using the test account that our system with the API call. Let me open and review test result. Okay, this is the first part. API related steps. Then I launch the Firefox, navigate to the login page, and this is the test user account that used in the login step. This is where I set new property for the text of the welcome object, and the ZAPTEST was able to verify it with 100% precision. Now we can use the same test to run across multiple browsers. For this, I will add values for Chrome and IE. Save and rerun this test. Of course, I need to close all browsers. And my test, once it finished with the Firefox browser, which is the next browser, which is Chrome. Going through the test steps. And now it launches the third browser, Internet Explorer. The test run is complete. Let me open and view test result. In my test report, I will see 3 sections for each iteration. Iteration 1, iteration 2, and iteration 3. On those iterations, we use different users and different test accounts. This is what I expect to see. Firefox and tester 2 on the first iteration, Chrome and tester 3 the second iteration, Internet Explorer and tester 4 the third iteration. Okay, this concludes my main part of the webinar. Let's move to the Q&A session. If you have any questions, please use private chat. Address your questions directly to me. You can be identified as a host or a presenter. Okay, I see one question came in already. What if I need to add or change header elements in the middle of the test? Yeah, it's a good question. Basically, there are 2 ways to update header elements. First, you can use API Studio. In header parts, you can add multiple header values, providing name and value. The values can be parameterized. You see that we provide a parameter button for both name and value. So at runtime, based on iteration that you going over, you can use different values for the from the parameters for either name or values, and you can of course multiple rows for this. Alternative way is to update the values programmatically. See if I can locate the related method. So I dropped the script. It should be under set. Yeah, we have set request header. You can use this method to provide name and value of the header, and you can of course make as many as you like, so you can add multiple header lines using this one. If you just need to update the header value, you can use existing header for its first argument, for its name, just a different value. Same way you can update dynamically not just header but also the body of the request. The only difference that for the body you will need to use set request body, set request row body. You just need to specify a string for the new body data and include boolean flag that body should be used. A row body switches between request body and row body data. So ZAPTEST knows that the row body should be used because it can be modified here, or it can be set programmatically through this step, and then it will use that in the request. Okay, I have another question. Can we use API calls in Emron? Yes, also very good question. The answer is yes, you can use API calls in Emron. The only thing that you need to keep in mind that on the API calls will be executed on a local machine. We don't support running API calls on a remote machine. If ZAPTEST will operate UI-related steps against the remote device, all API-related steps will be performed locally. But you can use it, of course, in Emron. Also, I want to mention that API-only tests can be used in a load module. We will have separate webinar dedicated to load testing with ZAPTEST. But just for your information, if you have API-only steps in your test script, that can be used as is in the test. UI-related tests not supported for load test execution. And combine UI and API also will not work there. All right, looks like we don't have any other questions and we're at the top of the hour. I appreciate your attention. Please keep using ZAPTEST. If you have any questions, you can always use our forum, submit your posts. Community or ZAPTEST members will be happy to help you this way. Thank you very much for joining. Have a great day. Bye-bye.